Hey guys, so today I am joined by my lovely wife, Marsha, who is the biggest and most hardcore Nancy Drew fan on the planet. If you didn't see our initial thoughts of the Nancy Drew movie that came out this year, Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase, the reason I want to do this video this way with Marsha as my co-host is because I'm not a super hardcore Nancy Drew fan, so you're going to get to hear the opinions of a casual fan and a super fan. So please keep in mind that this is just our first impressions on the CW Nancy Drew series, strictly based on the pilot episode. That's it. Our opinions on the show might change when we get to the end of the season, and I promise you that when that time comes, we will make another video and share our thoughts then on the whole show. But for now, this is just our first impressions. So, what was the first thing that jumped out at you? What was the first thing? Let's do a positive and a negative.
Okay.
What was the first thing that you noticed about the show immediately that you liked?
Kennedy McMahon.
Kennedy McMahon,
Yeah.
the new Nancy Drew?
Yeah. I really think that she's going to be a good Nancy.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to tell from the pilot, but I think that she has the passion to play the character.
And in your opinion, like, what quality makes a good Nancy Drew? Because they're all different. Everybody has played her different eras.
One quality that makes a good Nancy is curiosity, in my opinion. Nancy is nothing without her curiosity. That's the what do you call it? The motor behind everything that pushes everything along.
And the first big negative that you noticed immediately watching this pilot?
The sex really kind of caught me off guard so quickly. I don't mind Nancy to be sexy. She's a woman of today. That's perfectly fine with me. I just wasn't a big fan of our first real moment with her to be sex.
Well, to me, that was she had already been introduced, but that was our first moment with Ned.
Yeah.
That's how we meet Ned.
Yeah, that's true.
He's having very raunchy sex with Nancy.
It kind of threw me aback. But
another thing that bothered me again as a casual fan is that none of their intimate moments that I feel that they earned them.
Yeah.
Not a single one. It's like we meet Ned and she's already having sex with him. We didn't get a build up towards that. And then it's exciting when they kiss for the first time, when they get into bed together for the first time, but here we just abruptly just jumped into it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they earned a single thing.
And I can understand what they were trying to kind of go for. They're trying to set up this casual type relationship that she has with Ned to establish this is not the Ned from the books. This isn't her steady, ongoing boyfriend. This is more like a casual type relationship. But I don't feel that any Nancy in any era would so quickly jump into bed with someone. You know, because everybody has their own Nancy Drew. Even if this isn't your Nancy Drew, nobody's Nancy Drew would jump into bed so quickly with someone, and it kind of threw me aback as to the direction they're going with the character.
The first thing that I remember hearing you complain about was not the sex or not the fact that they didn't build a relationship between Nancy and Nick Nickerson. It was the setting, that they changed the setting of Nancy Drew. And this was from the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, you're watching the trailer and the first thing you see is that they're not in River Heights, they're in Horseshoe Bay. And boom, you were like, no, absolutely not.
I don't know why it's such a problem. They did the same thing. Well, actually, in the 2007 Nancy Drew, they put her in River Heights only to take her away from River Heights. But I don't know why it's such a problem to have a Nancy Drew story take place primarily in River Heights. I think for the sake
of the show, it's a practical reason. I think they just got a tax rebate to shoot in that particular coastal town. And River Heights is not.
No. Well, it depends on which books you're reading. Sometimes it's close to Chicago. Sometimes it's, it just depends on where you're reading. But it's not. Yeah.
But
it's
why?
Not
you still haven't answered the question. Why does it bother you so much?
I guess it's like if anyone's ever seen the 2007 review, Nancy Drew movie review that ERod did. It's set in there. It's, to me, the equivalent of Batman not taking place in Gotham City. Because the thing about Nancy, and the thing that I love about the books, is you have all these characters that are add-ons to Nancy, like Chief McGinnis and stuff, that makes the books more interesting. Like while you're reading, you're like, oh, I wonder how the Chief's going to respond to this, or this character. Oh, and there's this character. You know, to me, it's just.
Would you say that River Heights? Do you look at River Heights as a character in itself?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And I kind of wanted to mention that when I first saw Riverdale, because I love the Archie comics too, and when I first started watching it, the pilot, I was like, whoa, but the thing that I do love about Riverdale is that it takes place in Riverdale. And to me, the whole mystique, the mystery element of the town itself, well, to me, that's like River Heights. And Nancy does travel a lot in the books to different places, but I just don't know why they can't ever make Nancy Drew take place in her town.
So let's move on to talking about the cast. You already said you love Vincent Kennedy McMahon in the show. That's his real name. You already said you love her and you think she has the potential to be a great Nancy. So we have that. Now before we go through the other cast members, or the other characters I should say, what did you think of Pamela Sue Martin doing a cameo? The 1970s Nancy Drew played the medium in the most pointless scene in the pilot.
If I said that I wasn't aware that Pamela Sue Martin was going to appear in the episode, I'd be completely lying, because I've been stalking everything to do with the show. However, I will say that, without being too disgusting, I think I peed a little bit. I was so
okay,
happy,
good.
because to me that would be like Adam West showing up and passing that torch on to the next Batman.
Yeah.
And that's
Which
what I
has happened.
felt like, Okay, well, sorry, I don't know too much about
It's
that,
fine,
but,
it's fine, but no.
But to me, that's what it felt like. It felt like she's kind of giving
paying
her blessing.
tribute to the legacy.
Yeah.
And we talked about that privately when we were talking about the Emma Roberts Nancy Drew during that scene where Bruce Willis makes the most random cameo in history.
And it would have been better
And you
to
were
have...
talking about how it should have been either Pamela Sue Martin or Tracy Ryan, I believe, was the one that you were like, oh, it should have been her, because you like Tracy Ryan. Of the living Nancys, you like Tracy Ryan the most. But
I love it.
Yeah, to me, it's just the whole scene, and it's a TV show, so hopefully they will reveal that scene had more meaning or more importance, more relevance than it had in the pilot. Yeah. But for now, it just felt like 100% an excuse to have fun with like the classic Nancy Drew.
But yeah, it did feel kind of like an excuse, but I think the scene itself was excellent. Honestly, like it might not have fit so good into the pilot, but that scene is really what made me want to keep watching past that point.
So there's a lot of characters. Let's talk about the characters that are canon. Let's not jump to conclusions about characters that are new, because we're still getting to know them. But just first impressions, pilot episode, very quick, like one word responses to each character.
Okay.
Like your first impression of each character. Carson Drew.
Horrible. I'm sorry.
not yet. We'll go back. Horrible. Carson Drew. Scott Wolf, right?
Yeah.
We'll come back. Okay, horrible. Ned Nickerson.
He's not canon though. They've made it very clear he's not the Ned from the books.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
They've made that very clear. He's a new character.
So hybrid.
Yeah.
Ned Nickerson.
He's not really supposed to be.
That's weird.
Like, yeah.
That's odd. So yes or no? Yeah.
But as far as first impressions.
One word.
Boring.
Okay. George. Whatever her last name is. Fane.
Yes. Accurate.
Oh. Bess Marvin.
Adorable.
All right. Were you upset that Hannah wasn't there?
No. I'm not really.
Because I can understand Chief McGinnis not being there because they're not in River Heights, but Hannah?
No. Because the whole reason, and this is why. So, the whole reason Hannah is even a thing is because in the books, Nancy Drew's mom died when she was a very little girl. She doesn't even remember her mother. and this is taking place with a completely different timeline, if you will, different universe, Earth B, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was not really like a need to have Hannah there, because she was just the housekeeper and that kind of stuff. If Nancy's mother had been dead for a longer period of time, then I would be like, oh, well, where's Hannah? But it didn't bother. I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you.
So we have 2 ups and 2 downs.
Yeah.
Nancy's direct sidekicks, Bess and George.
Yeah.
Dig them. I dig them too. They were my favorite part of the pilot, especially during the most pointless scene in the history of pilots.
You were hilarious.
During the scene where they have the seance, with the medium. I thought they were hilarious. Their different reactions to Pamela Sue Martin's character. The 2 downs. Let's talk about those guys. Those are the guys that everybody wants to hear you talk about. So Ned Nick Nickerson.
Okay.
Why boring?
The only reason that I think he's boring is because they're trying to go about this character from the whole he's a bad boy, he's got a bad past type angle, but it feels so one-dimensional to me at this point. Now, this is just the pilot. I felt that way about other characters before.
Yes.
The pilot of Veronica Mars, I felt that way about Logan.
Wow.
But later on, I'm like, Team L and B, going crazy over it. So it's too early to really tell, but he was kind of boring. I didn't really care. I didn't feel that he and Nancy had any particular good chemistry.
I agree.
I think so far the best romance in the show is between Bess and George.
I agree.
I
agree. I would watch a show just about the 2 of them. No joke.
Yeah.
They were so good.
But that's it. It's just it felt.
They were so good. I'm going to put their names here because I don't know them. They were so good. I will remember them from this point on. But they were my favorite part. But not Ned. I just didn't.
Felt that he was boring, very one-dimensional. I don't really care.
To me, it felt like they got him to play the character because he's handsome and he's taller than Kennedy McMahon. That's it. Again, but like you said, I like what you said. It's true. It's just a pilot. They just, they shoot the pilot separately, and then the show gets picked up, and then a few months go by, and he gets more time to think about the character, figure out what he's going to do. So hopefully. By episode 3, Ned will get more interesting. Let's talk about Carson Drew, Scott Wolf, Nancy's dad.
Okay. I realized that it was probably a last-minute casting because Freddie Prinze Jr. dropped out.
Let's explain that, because originally they had casted Freddie Prinze Jr., famous teeny bopper heartthrob from when we were teenagers, as Nancy's dad. A lot of you Uber nerds might know him better as Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels. And those of us who aren't crazy Uber nerds but are into showbiz would probably know him better as Sarah Michelle Gellar's husband. My dad would probably know him better as Freddie Prinze Sr.'s son from Chico and the Man. Anyway, but so they casted him. Mm-hmm. He was all set to do it, and suddenly, for reasons that we're not privileged to know, he drops out. They replace him last minute with Scott Wolf. Yeah. Now, this is the reason we both sort of agree he deserves a chance, as he was dropped into this thing last minute.
So I realized it was last minute.
But in spite of this handicap, why didn't you like him?
He looks like he could be Nancy's older brother.
He looks like he's Kennedy McMahon's older brother. This looks like a continuation of Party of Five. It really does.
So, but also, and I get that they're trying to do this whole drama, which a lot of my friends that are Nancy Drew fans are really not about. But I understand they gotta have stories, more than one, to have a whole show. Right. And I get that they're trying to, establish the fact that he and Nancy are estranged. But the guy was just an asshole. Like, it just felt like he was a dick. And
a hypocrite.
And a total hypocrite. He's
getting on to Nancy for having a rendezvous with Ned, but he was already banging the detective behind her back. Yeah. And I'm not sure why he wouldn't tell that to Nancy, that he had a girlfriend. It felt like he was, as you said, being a dick for the sake of being a dick.
Yeah, it didn't feel like there was any reason to it. I can understand if he was motivated by wanting to keep Nancy safe or something like that, but I don't feel...
But she comes off more mature than him.
Yeah.
That's the weird part. And I'm 100% behind, as a casual fan, there being some drama, some negativity between them, a personal dilemma for them to overcome and bond again.
And that doesn't bother me either.
That is I'm 100% behind that. That is something that could be developed and progressed as the show goes on. However, to do that, you still need the two actors to have chemistry to make that work. To me, Veronica Mars is a show that if you strip everything away except for the relationship between Veronica and Keith Mars, her father, the show is still awesome. Because there's just perfect chemistry between Kristen Bell and Enrico Corleone. Here, it's not there. But it's weird. It's between the female actors and the male actors. Because Ace is a character that's in a whole other fucking planet. I don't know what show he thinks he's on, but it's not this one. It's like they're acting their asses off and they're building this magnificent scene, and he just says something completely random, and he is just like they cut to a whole other show when they cut to him. And I don't know what the deal is, the disconnect between the female characters and the male characters, but it's really bothering me. So again, the actors don't know one another. They're hoping against hope that the show will get picked up. It's gotten picked up. So they've had time to get to know each other, rehearse. They've read ahead. They read a few scripts ahead. And that helps to develop a character. So I hope that is fixed as we move forward. Yeah. But for now, to me, that is one of the biggest problems. I also thought the pacing was terrible.
Yeah, it was a bit slow going. Mm-hmm. I personally, as a Nancy Drew fan, didn't really notice too much because I'm sitting there looking at every little scene, trying to find little, there's a nod there, trying to see what they're going to do. So my brain was going a mile a minute whenever I watched the pilot. So I wasn't really aware of how it dragged.
To me, the pilot didn't legitimately get good until just past the final act when Nancy finds the file in Carson's drawer. Like she picks the lock and gets the file out and sees that at one point Nick was accused of murder. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the moment when officially it got good and it ended. And the show has this very strong Twin Peaks vibe where, there's a main mystery. Just like Twin Peaks, they find a dead woman. But there's more to it. Like, everybody has their dirty little secrets. Yeah. And it had that nice little montage of, like, things that each character is hiding. And then, boom, it ended. Like, right when it got good. But the bulk of this pilot was just exposition. And then it gets good. She finds a file, and it ends. And another thing, as a casual,
do that though.
Well, this was pretty dense with the exposition. There was just a lot of it, and what bothered me as a casual viewer was that it seemed like there was so much backstory. They kept referring to just crap they were not establishing, they were not cutting to. Just all this background, all this history that Nancy has that. It's just off screen. We just never ever see it.
It would have been nice to see.
It's just and it felt like they took how many? It's going to be 90 years of Nancy Drew. You said
next year.
So it felt like they took this 90-year history of Nancy Drew and they compressed it into 1 minute montage at the beginning of the show. And then she's grown up and she lives in this whole other town and she's a waitress for some reason. Everybody's a waitress.
Well, it's a little confusing though because that was the way that I saw it set up. Like, this is how she was, and she used to live in this other place, and now she lives here. But yet she refers to George as her classmate, and the police chief or whatever says she used to cause me trouble. So I'm a little confused on the time limit. Maybe I'll figure out that later.
Yeah, it's just it's okay, 100% okay for a pilot to leave dangling plot threads. That's fine. But it felt like there were too freaking many. Okay, like this looks like a sweater that just came undone. It's just too many dangling plot threads, at least for my taste. Alright, so, as just your standard pilot, I thought it had potential. Overall, I would personally give it like a C plus as far as grading it. You, on a scale from 0 to 10, 0, just absolutely horrible, I never want to watch it again. 10, I can't wait for the next episode. Why hasn't the next episode aired already? How many points on the Badassitude meter would you give the CW Nancy Drew pilot on its own?
I'm gonna have to go in the middle on a 5.
Just like my C grade.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go on a 5 because there's a lot of things that as a fan, it's very apparent the writers, they did their homework.
Oh, okay. Well, at least.
There's so many little tiny nods to the books, like the one of the characters in the book is named after the Tolman sister from The Hidden Staircase.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think I even just said the name wrong, but there's little tiny nods.
The actual name is this.
But so many little tiny things that they did to say, hey, we get that there is a fandom for this. We're not trying to step on any toes.
The Blue Roadster.
The Blue Roadster, River Heights Lane or Drive or whatever.
Ned Nickerson finds the super secret package that totally, most definitely has cocaine. What else would it have in it?
A brick?
It's a brick.
A brick.
Nancy's mom collected bricks.
But also, it's also apparent to me through her performance. If you don't know, Kennedy McMahon actually herself is a Nancy Drew fan. She has read the books.
And so is the actor who plays Nick, whose name is this. I don't know anybody's name on the show. It says Scott Wolf and Kennedy McMahon.
And I did see an interview with the girl that plays Bess Marvin. She also read the books, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But so I feel that they're trying to appeal to that new generation without stepping on too many hardcore Nancy Drew fan toes. Because
you make a really good point, because a lot of the alleged Nancy Drew fans' complaints stem from changes that they've made, or let's call them additions, because, and we've talked about this a lot, Nancy evolves. Nancy's like the Doctor in Doctor Who. Yeah. She keeps evolving with every incarnation, every book series. There's a Nancy Drew manga, there's a Nancy Drew graphic novel series. It's not just one thing. You can't just categorize. You talked about like specific attributes that Nancy has, but she keeps evolving with the time. She's not just a character from the 1930s. So
some people want to say this is not my Nancy. Well, she's not my Nancy, and guess what? She's not your mama's Nancy or your grandma's Nancy. She's not your Nancy. They're never gonna do your Nancy because your Nancy is not something they can recreate. It's just not. Like my favorite Nancy Drew is not anyone else's favorite Nancy Drew. And you just have to say, I love this character. I want this. If it does anything like Riverdale got people to buy the Archie comics.
That's awesome.
And drones. If it does anything like that for the series of books to get more people interested in all this great Nancy Drew material, then awesome. It's gonna have to appeal to this other generation, but to be a stick in the mud and say, oh, that's not my Nancy. Well, you're never gonna get your Nancy.
To me, my favorite Nancy was Tracy Ryan in the Canadian show from the 90s, and she looks nothing like Nancy Drew. Didn't even bother to get somebody that matches her appearance in the book series, but I liked her because the curiosity, as you mentioned, she will be in the middle of the most important thing ever, and she will veer all the way to the left if she sees a mystery over there to deal with it.
So as someone that reads the further 5, I see the nods that they made to all the different books in a way. Like there's something in there for everyone. If you were a fan of the 70s shows, bam, you got Pamela Sue Martin right there to look at. But also, beyond Nancy's curiosity and all those attributes that I love to talk about, the key to any Nancy Drew story ever, if it's gonna fail, if it's gonna be good, that is the mystery. I mean, by the time I close that first chapter on a Nancy Drew book, it's gotta have me hooked. I want to turn the page again. And that's what this pilot accomplished in the end. is it makes me want to go chapter 2, what's going on, and I think the mystery is always going to be the most important part of a story that involves Nancy Drew.
Like I said, it was those last few minutes, let's call it the epilogue of the episode. That's what really got me as far as wanting to see more, giving it another chance, but not as eager to jump into the next episode. Hopefully, the next episode will get me. I'm going to give it my standard 3-episode rule. I'm going to watch 3 episodes, and if I'm interested, I'm going to keep on watching it. If not, I'm going to leave it to you. Based on the pilot alone, would you recommend this to people?
Well, I would say no. And that's not to be mean or anything. I would say that if you are a hardcore fan and you're like me and you'll just eat up anything with Nancy Drew, then go ahead, watch it. Just be prepared that this is not anything that you've ever seen Nancy be like before. But as someone who just is a casual TV viewer, I personally, like, if it wasn't Nancy Drew, I probably would have gotten bored within the first 15, 20 minutes, and I probably would have changed the channel.
The pacing was bad.
Because it was...
Those first 2 acts dragged.
It was quite boring, and the only reason I wasn't bored is because I'm sitting there looking at every little corner of the screen to see if there's anything that resembles the books.
You were on an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, kind of like that. So I would say not at this point, but after we get maybe the next episode or so, then I think it is taking quite...
In most TV shows, the pilot is usually rough, like Firefly, one of the greatest short-lived television shows ever. The pilot is boring and it drags like hell all the way until the last act. So hopefully that will be the case here. So yeah, we're going to keep on watching it. However, what is the one Nancy Drew adaptation that you would recommend to somebody, like to the uninitiated?
That's a really hard question.
Wow.
Because it just depends. Like, so someone that's never read Nancy Drew before ever?
Yeah, something like a good introduction.
I would say watch the newest movie.
Even though this is like the most inaccurate representation of Nancy as far as her being a tomboy, skateboarder, Tony Hawk,
because
Kurt Cobain wannabe.
Nancy Drew is for people that love mysteries and they like to see sleuthing, and she did a good job of that. The writers did a really good job of this film, so I would say also go with that one.
And I cannot stress this enough. Sophia Lillis is awesome. All right, she's just such an awesome, charismatic actor. I'm just surprised because
I love the Benita Granville Nancy Drew, but the reason I love that is because I'm so familiar with the books, and there's so many things, and it was made literally while the books were still coming out. I believe the first movie came out in 1933. I mean, so there wasn't any variation in Nancy at that point. Now there is. So.
Okay, so here are your steps. Number 1, watch this movie. Number 2, get it through your head that Nancy's not a super extreme skateboarder Kurt Cobain wannabe from the 90s. But enjoy the mystery and enjoy Sophia Lillis' amazing, excellent performance in this film. Then after that, pick up a lot of the books and read those.
I would say start with the books anyway. I mean,
but
honestly.
What I'm saying, people are usually want a quick. I mean, this is like an hour and a half. 89 minutes. So an hour, 29 minutes. An hour and a half. Anyway, so hour and a half, you check this out, you get a taste of what Nancy Drew is like.
Yeah.
Because
if they watch the movies from the 30s, they're going to be rolling their eyes
if you the basic gist of this.
And if they watch the show from the 90s, they're going to think that Nancy's Canadian. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard because I like a little bit of each one of the adaptations for the most part. Like I like a little bit of everything. Like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Not so much of this, not so much of that.
Watch the movie. Read some of the books. If you like what you see, then and only then, watch the CW show. There you go. Alright, thank you so much for watching. As I promised, we will do this again when the season ends and see if our tunes change.